This is the easiest, and this is the hardest. Today, we're taking a look at Hanayama puzzles from the lowest level all the way to the highest. Let's see if the hardest is really that hard. Hanayama makes dozens of other puzzles, but I chose these ones because they're the best examples for their level. If you enjoyed this kind of video, just like it and I'll make more. Okay, level 1. Here we are with the cast diamond. This one may seem easy, but if you don't know the hidden trick, this one can be embarrassingly difficult. So being the easiest one and already having one difficult trick about it, it makes one wonder how many tricks there are in the hardest. But the one thing I have to say about this one is that the solution is very satisfying, but easy to forget. Alright, that was level 1, but at level 2 things are already getting a lot more tricky. This is the cast key, and as you can see there's many more tricks to this one than just one, like the first puzzle was. This is one of Hanayama's oldest puzzle designs, and it's not an award winner like the next one, but it does carry its weight in difficulty. As you can see, the one key has 2 pinchers, and you have to maneuver it around the other key, just in the real thin areas. That involves moving it around the shaft and around the ends and matching it up to the correct sequence. For level 2, this one is much harder than one would expect, but with a half an hour dedicated to trying to figure it out, I'm sure anybody could. Unlike this next one called the Cast O Gear. This one is an award-winning puzzle, and the funniest thing about this one is just as the gear tooth is leaving, another one is going in, making it mildly frustrating to try and remove. Now the gear can only move in certain directions and it can only spin a certain way. The goal here is to get a specific gear tooth on a specific side of the cube so that you can remove it. As you're moving it around the cube, you want to keep the proper orientation, otherwise you'll just keep going back and forth until you gotta start from the scratch again. As we bring it back all the way around from the side, we have to bring it to the top, and then we have to move it all the way to the bottom so that we can match up one of the gears to the holes and remove it. Now this is the award-winning puzzle, but the next one's got to be based on the coolest concept that I've ever seen. One of the tougher parts about this puzzle is the material it's actually made out of. It causes all the gears to get caught up every single time you want to rotate it around. So I can assure you this puzzle is much more difficult when you don't know where you're supposed to go or what you're supposed to be doing. But I've done all this before, so it's mainly muscle memory. Alright, now on to one of my favorites, the Cast Mobius. As you can see, the opening on the silver piece on the inside, once you spin it all the way around, it pops up on the outside. Well, that's because this is a Mobius strip. And the really weird part is that there's hills on both sides, or one side, or whatever it would be. So this Cast Mobius is mid-level, and you'll notice that it's still fun. The level 5 is considered like a masterpiece, and it's not really as much fun, and the level 6 is more or less just grueling. So we'll see how those ones look compared to this. So as you can see, we took a bit of a wrong turn, and we have to move it back so that we can get it alongside the bottom, or the inside of the Mobius strip. It's tough to do when it's a little bit of a double-sided maze, but you really just have to feel around and kind of go with the flow. What we need to do is we need to move it all the way to the bottom, because there's these 3 hills that are kind of diagonal from one another that we have to get it around. And there's those 3 hills, which means we can just slide it back and go all the way out. And now for level 5, we're getting into crazy territory. I will say though that this cast spiral is much more crazy if you have not solved it before. That being said, for a few of these Hanayama puzzles, they make it so that disassembly is a little easier and reassembly is a lot more difficult. The reason why reassembly would be so much more difficult is because each one of these pieces is very, very specific, and when you're trying to put it back together, not everyone's the same. So once you remove the area that can be twisted out, you just break up the chunks into smaller pieces, and this is the puzzle solved. I mean, personally, I might say that one's a little bit easier than the previous level, but that sets us up nicely for the most insane puzzle that Hanayama has to offer. Aside from the hourglass, of course. Cast Enigma. This one is ranked a Grandmaster and comes with these 3 different pieces that you have to separate from one another. At this point, a combination of logic and patience are required to solve one of these things. It's one of those puzzles you could probably dump hours into and get absolutely nowhere. That being said, once you figure it out, it just makes so much sense. So the first real big move we have to make is to get those 2 pieces in the piece that we're holding in our left hand. Once we have it there, we have to spin the other piece around, because if we don't, it's not going to work very well. Then we can sneak that other piece over top, because we're going to want to slide it all the way around, but we also have to bring the long piece up, otherwise it's not going to let us, and sometimes it gives us trouble, but we just have to move it around and get it back on track. Now this next part is probably the coolest part of the whole puzzle. It's why all 3 shapes can be intertwined. We have to slide the one piece off and through, as well as remove the tail from the other piece, and we have to do both those at the same time. Once we get that, we just keep on going and remove the other tail from it, and then yet again we just have to slide it back out, and that piece is freed, but the other piece is actually more difficult than you'd think. Before trying to slide it out anywheres, we have to lodge it over the other piece, which you require a little bit of pressure, so it can be a little tough to see. But once we do that, we slide it back across, and then we just lift it out, and this puzzle is solved. And that's the end of this batch of Hanayama puzzles. If you enjoyed it, give it a like and let me know if you agree with the rankings. If you want a real headache, check out my hourglass video. It's their hardest one. See ya!